I know you don't have these parts. I'm just showing you a for instance. So we're gonna have these parts, and then maybe down here at the bottom, if you wanted to, you could so let's say we wanted to put Verners on them here on the corners, and then right here in the middle you want your science. So you're gonna have like your science junior, and then you're gonna attach all your parts and pieces to that. You're gonna have your ground scanning module, your barometer, your gravity, and everything else. You can do this if you want to, but one thing you got to keep in mind if you build like this is you're going to be top heavy. So if you have your pod up here and you have your crew and they're coming in, they're landing like this, you're going to need something to keep yourself steady up top, because if you come in at an angle and you land and you don't have enough RCS, you're going to fall over. And this is if you look at your center of mass, which is this little weight right here, your center of mass is way up above your feet, which means you're going to be top heavy. Even if you burn some fuel out, you're still going to be top heavy, because it's just the way the weight is distributed. So you're going to want to probably tuck into your reaction control systems and maybe put some RCS up top. You know, put some fuel up here. That way you can kind of keep yourself steady if you try to fall over. What's up, Chris? Welcome in, buddy. It's good to see you. And that way it helps counter that. That's one thing you can think about. The cool thing about a build like this is you can kind of integrate it into a rocket build better. It's slicker. It's easier. Your fairing will fit over it much cleaner, and it has a much better profile when launching from Kerbal, because it's more aerodynamic. You don't really have to put a fairing around it. The other way you can go with a rover, if you wanted to, or a lander, I mean, is you can make it fat. And this is what I like to do. Not because I am fat, but because I have better luck with these. And what I would advise is try to switch to a wider tank as soon as possible. You know, make sure you have like your control wheels and stuff like that inbound. And if you have the DLC, which if you have the engine plates you do, the 1.8 fuel tanks are primo. The 1.8 is a great architecture to come into, because then what you could do is you could put a little stubby rocket at the end with an engine plate. Take your 1.8, that's 125, hold on. Take your 1.8 engine plate, you can throw a Terahdra on it, and then you can grab your landing legs, which are like right here, and check your center of mass, and you can actually move your legs. You've got room to move your legs, where you still have clearance for the bell of the rocket, but you see your center of mass is being cradled by the legs. And that makes your rocket more stable. You don't have to have RCS. You can just hit the ground, boop, and you'll sit and you'll rest. And that's also an effective way to build as well. And then you can, the only problem with this is you got to put your science in different places. You might have an issue with that. But you have a little more structure. Another way you can go if you really, really wanted to is you can kind of stick with this kind of direction, and you can go wide, and you can make like a larger lander. The surface area is important when you're trying to land. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to make a lander that looked like this. Let's go around here, like that. This is going to be like the size of our lander. Do you do orbital rendezvous or for return, or just use the landing craft? Do you do a orbital rendezvous for return, or do you just use the landing craft? What do you mean? Oh, you mean from this? Depends on how you build it. It all depends on how you build it. So let's say, for instance, because when you're coming back from the MUN, you only need about 600, well, I lied. You need about 800 delta V total. You need about 500 to get around, and about 250 to 300 to get home. Now, granted, you can shake that a little bit with using your Kerbal to push and everything else, but you really only need 800 to come back. So, at bare minimum, I would say put about 1,500 to 2,000 on your landing craft. and then have a thing attached to it. But like Ryankin said, you want to do it all in one piece. That way you get used to actually doing it. But then after that, it just depends on how big you want to build your rocket, how much money you have. So like, for instance, let's say we wanted to go super tiny lander. Okay, let's go new. Let's go super tiny lander. If I had to build like the smallest lander to land on the Mun, this is what I would build. This is if I had nothing to stop me as far as like technology or R&D tree or anything else. Check this out. Hold on. So we're gonna put a Kerbal there. I would put a battery like this, and I would put. Hold on. Let me think for a second. This is probably wrong. I want this seat to be over here. Stand by. So we'll put the seat there. I'll put a docking port here. We can go with a smaller docking port. Let's do the smaller docking port. We'll do some science here, just some really small science. We'll probably put like your thermometer and your barometer and things like that. You know, just little stuff that you can take with you when you're going out. And then you would put like xenon and this, and we'll put some solar panels on the side. That would be what I do as a lander to get yourself down onto the ground on Minmus, or Mun. So let's say we went to the Mun. We've got 1.93 TWR on an ion engine, and you can actually ship a Kerbal down there, land them, and then bring them back if you wanted to with this. So if you had a lander this small, this could do everything you wanted it to do because it's got 5,000 delta V. You can ship it up, you can send it around, you can bring it home. It's all about how big you make your craft and stuff. If you got to plant the flag, this is all you need. You can take this out. You don't have ions yet, but that gives you an idea of how small you can build. Another thing we can do, if you don't have access to that, if you don't have access to this, you're gonna have to use a pod of some kind. So we'll take all this science away. What's up, Hippo? How are you, bud? Welcome in, guys. It's Hippo. He's anonymous, but he's a hippo-anonymous. I don't know if that means that he's like popular and he's with it, or if he's just a weirdo. But either way, you can make that decision yourself. How goes it? It's going pretty well. We're just kind of kicking some fenders and putting some stuff out here on paper to try to make something work. Technically speaking, you can land this on the Mun. This has 1650 delta V. The TWR is atrocious. You can actually bring that down and make yourself a little slower if you want. But this has 1650 delta V. If you had this attached to a larger craft, you can break this off, land it onto the Mun, hop off, plant the flag, get back on, fly it back up, and you could come home with this if you wanted to. You know, the sky's the limits. The Mun's gravity isn't as foreboding. The Mun's the problem with the Mun isn't the gravity. The problem with the Mun is all the craters everywhere. If you can dodge a crater, you'll be just fine. But I mean, if you, my best advice for you would be build something that you're comfortable with. Make sure that you can launch it. One thing I didn't really go over with you about that I think is important to note. Let me build another lander, and I'll show you my mindset through the build process. That way you can kind of copy it, okay? I don't know if you still have this, but if you don't have that, here it is here in chat. This is your delta V planner. This shows you how much delta V you need to get to a specific body in the game. So to get in orbit of Kerbal at 80 kilometers, you need 3,400 delta V. So if you want to go to the Mun, you want 860 plus 310 plus 580, which is 1,750 to land on the Mun. But then you need about 800 to get home. So 2,500 is a good number. If you can hit around 2,500 on your final stage, then you're good to go. Getting it out there is the issue. Here's how I build things, and hopefully you can use this to your advantage moving forward, okay? So let's say we're using an actual pod. We're going to use a one-man pod. So first what you want to do is you want to make sure all of your stages are taken care of. So this guy needs to come home. So we're going to put a heat shield on him. We're going to put a parachute on. And that's going to be your pod to bring the guy home, right? Done. You're going to bring a pilot. If you're not bringing a pilot, you got to change other things. But this is for a pilot only, okay? So there's your first, that's your landing pod. Done. After that, want to decouple. So build a decoupler. Now you want your return, your Mun craft. You need 2,500 delta V. The game has a delta V calculator. So don't worry about Mun. Just go to Kerbal, go to vacuum. So you want 2,500 delta V in vacuum. So we're still using early career stuff. We're gonna go over to fuel tanks. We're gonna grab this fuel tank right here, this FLT 400. But before we put it on, we're gonna come over here to command and control. We're gonna put this small inline control wheel on our ship. Okay? Pop that on. Hold on. That didn't do what I wanted it to do. We'll put it on last. You can put it on wherever, just as long as you have it on the vessel somewhere. Push it in there. We're going to take a Terrier rocket. Put a Terrier on it. We have 2,279 delta V. Now, I said you need about 2,500, right? I'm going to run with this just to show you the basics, okay? So we need 2,500. So I'm going to come down one more fuel tank. Let's make a smaller one here at the top. We'll put one there. 2616. How you doing, Trigger Man? Welcome in. It's good to see you. We're going to go with the easiest, most basic landing legs. I'm going to go with 3, not 4, because it saves us weight. If I have those out, we're going to be a little tall, but we're going to run that risk, okay? So we have 2,579 delta V. Done. This stage is finished. So what you do then is you want to build the second stage. That's going to get you into orbit and maybe help you get towards the Mun a little bit. Your bottom 2 stages need to be at least 3,400 delta V total. So don't count that stage. We're going to switch over to altitude 30 kilometers. You're going to put a decoupler here. And then what you want to do naturally as you build down is you also want to build out. You want to go a little fatter. That way your rocket has stability. You want it to be this shape. You don't want it to be this shape or this shape or anything like that. You want it to be a triangle. So we're gonna bump down a little bit. We're gonna grab our 1.8 architecture. So we're gonna put a fuel tank here. We're gonna grab this longer 1.8 fuel tank here. And then I'm gonna put a control wheel in here as well. That way we have control in this ship. I'm gonna push this up here, and then we're gonna slap a rocket on it. The rocket I like using is the Skiff. You can use whatever you want that you have in your career that works up to this point. Let's go with a Reliant, because that's probably what you have access to. That gives us 2,586 delta V. That's a lot. That's almost 2/3 of your 3,400 that you need just to get into orbit. Okay, so since we're so if you don't have this tin can, you can actually just use the smaller 1.8. The way the game does things, it splits things in half. See how that's 5.06 tons? And it has 405 fuel? The bigger tank is 10.1 with 810. It's exactly 2 of those tanks, but it's 1 less part. Does that make sense? So if you don't have this one, you can use the 2 smaller ones instead. It's just as you unlock more things, you get more rigid pieces. It makes it easier to build rockets. So, this with that, let me put an engine plate on here because that rocket's not true 1.8. So we're going to do that. We're going to do this. So now we have 2,500 delta V at that stage. So now we want to get ourselves off the ground. At that point, you want to change your delta V calculator to sea level. And at sea level, you want to go one step further out. So from 1.8, you go 2.5. We've already got the engine plate. I'm going to go ahead and make it medium. I think medium's fine. We're going to go 1.8 to 2.5 adapter. Hold on. I got to go one more tick out. 1.8 to 2.5 adapter. That's auto strut. We're going to add another tank. Maybe this one here that's 18 tons, which you unlock really early. And then we're going to grab the skipper, right? Because the skipper is what you have access to. That gives you 1844. 1844 and 2,500 is 4,300. You only need 34 to get into orbit. Your rocket's done. This is your rocket. It's finished. You don't need a fairing. You have very little drag. You don't need a lot of power because it's going to be a manned craft. You can put a battery on here if you want. You can snag a little bit of science if you want. You have a little bit of room because you got extra delta V. So maybe pop a battery on here. Maybe grab some science. Put a thermometer and a what you would call it on there. And there's your craft. You can be a little heavy. Now this goes against this is within 50 tons because it's a beginner craft for the MUN. But that's using the pieces you have access to. That should comfortably get you to the MUN. If you want me to show you, we can do a quick little run real fast. We'll put Jeb on board, and we'll launch. And I'll show you. But you want to build your last stage first, and then build your first stage last. That way you stack your delta V, and you know what's going on. Yeah, tin can. Watch, I'll show you. I'll show you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Check it out. He's not poor Jeb. He's perfectly fine. Now, mind you, this is like bare minimum. If you have extra cooler stuff or if you want to add more fuel, you can. If you add more fuel to the top, you're going to have to add more to the bottom. That way you can get your rocket out and into space. Now, while you have your rockets launching, I would pull out your stage. That way you can look at your TWR and you can look at how much delta V you've got left. And I would also pay attention to your apoapsis. That way you kind of know where you're going. You want to keep your TWR below 2. That's a me rule of thumb. Whatever you feel comfortable with. Anything over 2, the rocket gets kind of wanky and starts, you know, going AWOL and stuff. But I like to keep it under 2, and you just fly. You want to get to 10,000 before you start turning, in my opinion. You want to get to about 45 degrees, push it to about 40,000, 50,000 apoapsis, turn yourself horizontal, get into orbit, and go. So we're going to down throttle just a little bit, keeping it at 1.9. We'll go down another tick. We'll start turning for our gravity turn. If you notice, there's like little to no drag on this rocket. The little pieces that we have hanging out the side is not going to make that much of a difference. Once you start having like big pieces, it starts making a huge difference. Last 500 delta V, I don't touch the TWR. I let it push all the way through the stage. When there's like 1 second left, you want to go full throttle before you stage. That way you get maximum impact of your other one. Watch your apoapsis as it climbs up. We're over here at 45 degrees now. And we're going to keep going on around. We're burning the last little bit of delta V. We're going to punch it right with 3 seconds left. And then we're going to stage. Stage. So now we have the second stage. Our apoapsis is at 57,000. We're going to hover right around 20 degrees. We're still climbing, but we're still pushing our orbit out. We're going to burn this for a while. We're at 1.5 TWR. We're perfectly fine. Let this go for a bit. We're getting close to 70. I would recommend right now to go full horizontal. You can do whatever you want at the end of the day. And then I watch the timer. I just watch the timer at this point. I just let it go. Once the timer starts counting up, you're pushing your apoapsis away from you. That's when you gotta start kind of throttling down, trying to get your ideal circularized orbit, trying to save as much delta V as possible, but we're just gonna go. So right now we need about 800 delta V to get into orbit. We got 1800. We've got more than enough. So if you look at the timer, see how it's stalling at 1 minute 11 seconds? Now it's counting up. We're gonna let it count up a little bit, get to 75. We're gonna kill the engine. We're gonna wait. We're gonna wait until we kind of get closer to our apoapses. That way we can flatten out our orbit, make use of our delta V. So I'm gonna warp until about 35 seconds-ish remaining. We're gonna hold it horizontal and we're gonna burn. So we're gonna put it right there. Go. Watch the timer. It's counting down, which is fine. That means we're approaching apoapsis, but we're not pushing it away. Once it starts counting up, wait a little bit more. We're gonna wait till about 20 seconds this time. This is me maximizing delta V. What's up, Armored Gimp? Welcome in, buddy. It's good to see you. Hope you're well. So here we are at 17, 16. We're counting down. That's fine. Now it's counting back up again. We're gonna keep it under 20 seconds. If we hit 20 seconds, we stop and we wait. We can hold ourselves prograde now because we have a level 1 pilot. So we're gonna go around till about 7 or 6 seconds, burn again. Watch the counter go up, keep it under 20 seconds. So there's 18. That means we've reached over 25,000 of our periapses. We're gonna burn closer to 0 again. 57, 60, and orbit. So now we're in orbit. So we're in orbit. We need 830 to catch the Mun. We have 775 left on our second stage. We now have a nice, pretty circular orbit. 76 by 71. It's a little off, but you know what? The sky is the limit. Set the Mun as a target. We're gonna pick a place to burn, probably right here in 20 minutes. We're gonna burn out. It's gonna have us run into the Mun right there. We're gonna focus view on the Mun. We're gonna tighten ourselves up. So I'm gonna open up the maneuver node here, the maneuver editor, and we're gonna try to get as close as we can, as even as we can, along the equator. I guess this is gonna be a little weird like that, huh? We can always fix the orbit if we needed to, but I don't think we need to. As long as we're not polar, we're fine. So we're gonna be hitting it that close. Can we not straighten it up a little more? No, I guess not. All right, let's see. Let's get a little closer. Let's see how close it's going to put us. We can right click, that way we can see. I would say anything under 15,000 you got to be careful of because there's mountains. You might hit one of them. I think it's like 11.5, but just keep yourself over 15. 16.1, 855 delta V. So it uses only 100 delta V of our last stage. Perfect. We're going to aim ourselves at that maneuver, and we're going to warp to the maneuver. Now, we don't have locking to maneuver nodes or things like that. If you have those probes unlocked, it makes things... You save so much fuel doing that. But we're going to go ahead and warp to our burn, and I'll show you the next steps. All right. So it makes us go to a minute left before we have to worry about anything. We're going to aim ourselves at the maneuver node. Get ready. Closing ourselves in. 3, 2, 1. Burn. Make sure you hold yourself there or close to it as possible using WASD. We're kind of holding close to it. It's going to lock us prograde for a little bit, which is what we're trying to do. What is locking to maneuver node? See that blue thing that we have on our nav ball right now moving around? Later, you unlock more things that you can use as your computer to lock stuff, and you can lock it to that blue crosshair. So you can lock it to that blue crosshair automatically, and while you do your burn, it just stays pointed at it. And it saves you a lot of fuel because you're not having to stop and move around and everything else. Okay, so there's our burn finished. Let's see how close we're getting to the Mun. We are getting 17,608. Perfect. We have 2,500 delta V, and we're on our way to the Mun. So we're going to get to the Mun. I'm going to go ahead and set up a maneuver, and we're going to land. So we're going to burn in. and we're gonna put ourselves right around here somewhere. Now you gotta the mun's gonna spin a little bit, but you gotta keep yourself away from the craters. The craters are the biggest danger when you're landing on the mun. So this is a 37-second burn, 39-second burn. It happens in a day. We'll go on ahead and warp to the burn. We're gonna warp, warp, warp. There's the mun, and we're gonna get really close to the mun here in about 30 seconds. Hafnium, welcome back. It's good to see you. See that blue node? That's a maneuver node. This is radial in. This is anti-normal. That's retrograde. When you learn those, it becomes easier when you're dealing with the nav ball for sure. And here's the mun. Dun, dun, dun. Didn't your Delta V map say 8 hours? No. What do you mean 8 hours? How you doing, Ismic? Welcome in, buddy. It's good to see you. So here's the mun. This is the most foreboding beginning boss because of all these damn craters and hills and mountains and everything else. I would advise you, if you're going to go for a landing, to change your altimeter to elevation, not sea level, because that's a mistake a lot of people make. They crash into the ground when they think they have 1,000 extra meters, and they don't. You got to make sure you pay attention to that. Green is elevation, blue is sea level. So we're going to get a little closer to our burn. It's going to be retrograde. I'm just going to hold ourselves retrograde. I'm not going to try and follow the maneuver node because we don't need it. So here we go. Looper, welcome in. It's good to see you. Hope you're well. Happy Sunday. So we start our first burn. You can see all the pits and pots and craters. And this is what throws people off about the mun. This is why I hate the mun. Because you never know exactly where you're going to end up. What's up, Cockley? Welcome in. No, but there is a sea level that they use for measuring height throwaway. Hi, throwaway. How are you, bud? So we're going to slow ourselves down. And then once we get this first burn finished, we're going to switch over to surface on our nav ball and not orbit. All right, so we're going to go ahead and kill it there. Switch to surface. And here we go. We're coming in. Now, you can do whatever you want to here. What I do is, I just kind of go for the ground, and I try a suicide burn. This is how you don't have to do this, but this is what I do because I'm cheeky. All right, we're going to do that. Hi, Jason Lee. Brand new players aren't going to know what the Highlands are, unfortunately. You just got to wish them the best of luck. You're as always. That's cool. And hi, Jason. It's good to see you, bud. Hope you're having a good Sunday. So we're going to keep ourselves locked retrograde to surface. And then it looks a little scary, but you know what? This should be just fine. Jason, I'm having a good day, man. Any day I get to stream is always a good day. King of Rome, we might end up slamming into the ground. Don't do what I do. I'm dumb. This isn't going to work. See how we're not going to work this way? It's not going to work. See? It's okay, though. We F5'd before we went there, so we can learn from our mistakes. I'm going to show you how to really do it now. All right, let's do it the real way. Delta V map says 8 hours, and it's correct. I just forgot that a Kerbal day is just 6. Okay, gotcha. So we're going to, oops. We're going to start our burn a little earlier, and not burn as hard. So let's do that instead. 284 Delta V in 43 seconds. It's okay, Tin Can. That's why you F5, dude. You gotta learn somehow. Me, Jan. 21 months. How are you? Welcome back. Thank you for the tier 3. It's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Here's another way to do it. Just get yourself nice and slow, and then make sure you just pop yourself down nice and quietly. So now you can see our surface speed. You can see our rocket. We only need this much Delta V to slow down. If you start throttling too early, you actually waste Delta V because it makes it back up again. So you want to wait until the last possible minute to land, obviously, to save as much Delta V as you can. But if you notice, we're in a nice flat spot. You can see our altimeter. If we were doing sea level, we would think we had 5,000 more meters, and we don't.